Welcome back to another episode of Advocata Studio, where we explore critical economic and policy issues featuring insightful discussions with multiple stakeholders. And today, in celebration of International Women's Day, we have a very inspiring woman with us here to talk to us about the critical role women play in the workforce and how that plays an important factor in the economy. So we are beyond honored today to have with us a true pioneer in the world of women's empowerment. Our guest is Dr. Sulochana Segera, the founder and chairperson of Women in Management, an organization dedicated to empower women, advancing gender equality and reshaping societal attitudes toward women's participation in leadership and business. Under Dr. Segera's leadership, women in management has become a key driver of change, advocating for women's inclusion in the workforce, mentoring small and medium enterprises, and influencing policy discussions on gender equality at the international level. Dr. Segera has been globally recognized for her work in empowering women and fostering economic inclusion. And today's episode, we are going to talk about a lot of issues in the women's labor force, from gender disparities to in the informal and migrant labor sector, entrepreneurship, and also the unpaid care work and the social protections we need to be in place with. We are thrilled to have Dr. Segera here with us to share valuable insights, which comes from decades of experience advocating for women's rights and economic empowerment. Dr. Segera, thank you so much for joining us here today. It's truly a privilege to have you on our podcast, especially in celebration of International Women's Day. So, to begin with, I also want to take a moment to acknowledge the work you and your team at Women in Management have been doing to empower women in Sri Lanka and globally.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invite. I'm honored. And yes, International Women's Day is part of our life, I would say.
Yes. And if just to start off in a very less serious mode, what would you say is the most challenging and most inspiring, empowering thing about being a woman?
I would say like this: a woman life is a challenging, and especially if you are born in Asia, it's much challenging. But if you ask me how you look at challenges and the opportunities, I would say struggles are the opportunities. And for me personally, being a woman is a celebration. And I think that's something that most of the women has forgotten. And I was just reading something, and someone told, a lot of people wants to be the man. A lot of women wants to be the man they want to be. Like they want the men that they want to be has become women, right? So it's a very complicated word. Then I ask a question for my members to answer: who is a woman? And I said, you have to give me the answer within 30 seconds. No, they couldn't. Some young women went on to the chat GPT and they were looking for description. And that's, I think we have got it so complicated because we want to be right and perfect. I always say, be the imperfect and you are perfect enough.
That was nicely put. Thank you so much for that. So we'll dive right into our serious, very critical economic policy issues. And our first segment is gender disparities in the workforce and the policy gaps we have. So, women in Sri Lanka face significant challenges in the workforce we are because breaking into a leadership role or negotiating equal pay and even securing promotion is such a difficulty today. So, despite the policy commitments, gender parity in the workforce remains quite elusive. So, you have been a vocal advocate for women's leadership and professional growth. So, in 2025, do you believe the Sri Lanka's corporate sector has moved beyond token representation, or do you believe the ceiling is still firmly in place?
I think the corporates has policies, maybe for right reasons or maybe just to have a policy. But what look at it is in a different way. Are the women are ready? If we pray for rain, we have to take our umbrella. The thing is, we asked for a lot of things when the COVID hit us. We asked for, work from home, all that. All were granted, but we were not ready. And also the corporates wants, it's like I would say, when you get a woman to be in the leadership and she becomes the first, we want to use this word, a women leader. Leadership has no gender. Leadership is leadership. The style of leadership has genders and values. So I think the corporate has to understand Sri Lanka has to get women into leadership, not because of anything. Our women are more educated. Yes, there is a gap between the skill and the education. That corporates also has to contribute for upskilling the women. But if you look at the corporates, what they look at is a woman as a cost, not as an investment. But many organizations are supporting toward it, but I feel men has successes. Men actually ensure another, when they are leaving, oh, I get my body to come there, right? So women are not yet starting that mentorship and not taken that responsibility and accountability to mentor another woman to the same position. So that's why we have a lot of people say the first woman. Who's the second? You cannot be first if you don't have a second. So ensure that when you become the first, there's a pipeline. So that is where then the corporate has no other option because she's leaving or she's getting promoted because she has a successor. And that does not mean that she has to be a woman, she has to be a successor. But I think more women, because there's this, complaint that women don't support women. And I know young people always says that you whatever you say, your generation hate us. And I always ask, why should we hate y'all? No, we are young, we are energetic. Yeah, y'all are young and energetic. But I don't think young, educated, or energetic has anything to do with attitude and values and struggles. Because today, what y'all are facing may not be what we faced, right? So we have to understand there's a generation gap also. And also, the women are fighting alone in corporate ladder, and the mentorship and sponsorship for women are not available unless when there is no one they give a sponsorship for a training. But do women, have you seen any organization conduct programs for the middle management, ensuring that they become another 2 years their career path for the senior? You don't see. But the women who are highlighted, they think that, oh, these women are there, so they're there. But no, you have to look at the women who are not highlighted, who are silence contributed. So these are the, I think, corporates has gone on a has picked up buzzwords without understanding the responsibility, and corporates going to lose a lot of skilled employees, especially women, if they do not focus on this.
How, just going back to a point you mentioned about mentorship amongst the women in a corporate sector, how, with given your experience, how would you suggest or recommend businesses or just organizations in the corporate sector in building a system where we are creating more mentorship between women? Because finally, women don't support women is a big thing which is spoken about. So how can we bring in that atmosphere or that culture in where we are working together, collaborating and building a mentorship where if I leave or if I move, I'm building someone else from the back as well.
So that actually should come with a woman. It's a value that has to be encouraged. And we think women are very insecure. No, women are not insecure. When women go on to the top, when a man go on to the top, he has supporters, buddies. But when a woman go up to the top, she's very isolated, because all the women says, "Oh, now she's a top woman. She should not come." And we want that lady to understand us. where the woman will look at the CEO will look at us as a woman, but also as an employee. So she's not going to favor us just because we are a woman. So I think the mentorship should come first for the women who are already on the top. That is for the emotional support, so that she's emotionally strong enough to mentor another woman. What happens is when she reaches the top, we isolate her and we expect her to mentor another woman. So, as a human, when someone is isolated, there's no support system, she cannot support another woman because the whole world is watching how she's going to fail, not how she's going to success. When a woman fails, it's not her who she's failing. The whole women will be failing. That's what happened to Sri Lankan politics. We had only two women who were in the senior positions. Then they said, oh, we had two women, that's enough, no more women, because we had so many men who are running the country who failed, but we didn't say that anything wrong with those men. But when women fails, it's everyone who fails. So we have to understand this mentorship is very critical. How corporate can look at is ensuring the top women first get the mentorship. It's not the just career mentorship, emotional and career mentorship. Then take her to share that mentorship down the line. Otherwise, you can't go to the middle and ask her to mentor the middle when she's not mentored and supported.
So, also just going back to your work with women in management, what do you think is the biggest policy fail in preventing women from breaking into executive roles?
So I think the policy level is what I see is women from the education policy has to change. When you say education policy, it's not for the student, it's for the whole teachers and principals and universities lecturers. We want to change policies for the people who cannot make decisions, that is students. But if you go, I have been to schools, I've been to universities, institutes. What I see is they do not have the lecturers or teachers or anyone does not have that knowledge about the global market. So if we want to change the education policy, is not about just education system. It's a, I would say the teachers has to understand, and also the university lecturers, professors, mainly the educated people should understand the role of women. Why the young girls should think like CEOs? Why the young girl should fail in class? Why should not she take the science and forget about art subject? Why she should not be a sportswoman or a swimmer? Or just because she's good in she got 9 A's, does she has to be a doctor? She can be a sportswoman. So the system is because, oh, she's a bride, the prefects, you become, if your parents are more donating or you're good in class, I think the prefect should be given to children who are not doing everything good, because that means they have something other skills. So school education system should be identify what are the skills children has, not only the education. And also I would say the policies that has to change is this vocational training, because vocational trainings can make a lot of entrepreneurs, but our vocational trainings are more on to uh, children who has failed in all the level, then say, oh, now you go to a vocational training, which should not be that. Vocational training system has to change. And I would say that those two policies were changed, that is education. There's a huge difference. What we are trying to change is not the education, not the educated people. We are trying to change is people who has no power. We have to change the people who has power.
Great. Okay, moving on. So, with Sri Lanka's labor force participation for women still lagging or very relatively less, should companies be legally required to maintain a gender balance when hiring and when you're looking at promotions?
So I think what India did was, once they told, okay, if you have many women, you get a tax exempt, something they brought
Mm-hmm.
it up. So anyway, they brought their wives, mothers, or daughters, what so and so. But what I would say is you don't need quota because there are so many educated women, but the system has to change. Now, if you look at, so if you, I coming from a HR background, if you sit on interview board and if you get 10 good application where 10 of them are women, and if you get two male who does not have that qualification, but still you prefer, I'll go for the man. He can stay late, there's no transport cost. What we look at is not the productivity.
Mhm.
We look at the easiest way. We are not. Sri Lanka is either, don't know whether it's island mindset or what. We have this, short term goals, short term. This we are not a. We use the word sustainability, but we sustainability start from the recruitment. So I'm not telling you to avoid boys because boys should be given employment, but then you have to look at, do not look at the gender, look at what are the qualification or skills or attitude that person has to perform in the job. And it doesn't mean Sri Lanka think more on hard work than smart work. If a girl's leave at sharp 5 o'clock, it does not mean she's not productive. She may be the most productive if she finishes and your electricity bills, your AC, everything goes up. But then you don't look at it on that way. So I think recruitment, especially in HR, policies, and also when you're recruiting you must be not, I would say, don't look at the gender but look at what that person bring to the table. And also when you're giving promotions, I still remember, I think I was at the age of 19 or 18, just out of school. I went for office and then I got the job. Then they said, okay, you have to sign something. I said, what? That 3 years that you are not going to get married or pregnant. I was happy to sign it off. But for some reason, I said, can I ask my father? So I went out and asked my father. He said, what nonsense? Who can say? No, you can't. It's a human right violation. I was like, okay. And I didn't know what is human rights or anything. We were not taught. So I went and said the same words to that company. That's a human right violation. They never wanted to hire me because I was talking about human rights before I been employed, right? But then what I realized was I asked my father why you said I'm not going to get married so soon and I'm not going to have kids. So I said, no, it's not that you're not getting married or no, you have to enjoy being you are. You have to, you have that privilege to be married or not married or to be a mother. So you can't, companies cannot just look at a woman and say, oh, she's still young, she's going to get pregnant, 3 months. You can't look at her as someone like that. You have to look at her as a human. And also we have to understand, when we, even though we speak about women, there's a lot of unemployment with boys because they do not complete education. A lot of boys drops out, and that drops out. And we are talking about gender equality. Remember, we are going to have, it's already there, we are going to have a huge issue with a lot of education gender wise difference, and that's going to create a lot of domestic violence,
Mhm.
and society automatically has got into it. Now when a lot of girls are thinking independency is not getting married, not getting relation into a relationship, no, because they can't find someone who can be equal to you. So there is a society issue that is not being very silent and no one is talking about. So this is something that will more hinder women coming into the employment.
There was a lot, but a lot in that small time. Thank you for that. So we'll slowly move on to our next segment, which is more towards women in informal sector and migrant labor. So many Sri Lankans, I think we all know, is that women work in informal sectors and they also migrate abroad for employment and often facing poor working conditions, no job security, and even legal vulnerabilities. So, addressing these concerns is crucial for the economic dignity and fairness. So, women in management has supported many women entrepreneurs. And however, like 80% of our domestic workers in Sri Lanka are women. And most without legal protections, They are considered to be informal work sector and with no formal employment, and to ensure fair wages. And so, what can we do to ensure that there are fair wages and social security for these domestic workers in Sri Lanka?
I'm coming back to that educated people. So I was at an event of whom I did a program, and they wanted, this is a state event, and there were some state professors and all that. So I was talking about this informal sector and equal pay. So this professor said, "No, you can't have equal pay." I said, "Why you can't?" Okay, a man who is cutting a branch and a woman who is sweeping, they can't have the same salary. I said, "Why?" Because I said, if the number of hours are same and she also does the same thing, why can't? And they said, no, he need more energy and he's a man. So then I was thinking to myself, I didn't want to go and argue. I was thinking to myself, we are trying to change a system when we educated people does not understand. It's not about who has more power, who is more strong. It's equal pays, ensuring that if they are on the same designation, same job role, either they're a man or woman, they are given the same benefits, right? But then again, another professor said, a dentist should be a man because they have more strength to pull the. This is true story, truth. And I'm like, what are you saying? So these are the things. So you must understand. We think these issues are with uneducated people. So first, perceptions has to take it out, and we had to have very open, honest discussion with all levels, right? And also the women, whether they are informal or formal, the women think if they are working, they are doing a help for their husband or a partner. So they never say, "Oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm doing it to help my family." They don't think that it's okay to say, proudly say, I'm an entrepreneur. And also, they do not want to claim that, the dignity of being earning. They won't say that. So that is something, I think, that personality issue, that a lot of programs when I do, I first what I do is to give them the confidence. It's okay to be who you are. It's okay to tell your name. That's the confidence, and I think that's why it's at the school system. You have to build that confidence, and I don't see that confidence is coming. And also the informal sector pay, a woman never go and negotiate about the salaries. Now we are telling educated, even if a man come to clean our garden, we may pay 1,500. If a woman come, we pay 750 or 1,000. We who wanted to be equal in the corporate, but an informal person comes, we pay differently. And then there is argument. Some of my members' spouses say, "Oh, so let's speak about gender equality, and you need me to lift the gas, right?" So we have to understand, men are strong physically, women are strong mentally. And it's not a fight, it's a collaboration. So we need to understand that collaboration comes to the jobs, work, entrepreneurship. The woman may bring lot of emotions and mental energy and stability when a man fail in the business. She will say, she will have something saved. She said, don't worry, we can pay this, we can go ahead. That's a contribution. So unless we understand what a woman and man brings to a thing, we can't fight for equal pay, because we people does not understand we are bringing different skills, different emotions, different energies. We are talking about what we are seeing. We are saying, oh, he's driving a car, she also driving, but he stays at 9 o'clock, she leaves at 6 o'clock. So why should we pay equal?
I think it's very important that we always highlight the strengths and weaknesses of both a male and a female rather than just trying to pinpoint a women's weakness or even pinpoint a man's strength and be like, this is how it should be. And as you said, it's a collaboration
It's
rather
not a
than,
competition, it's a
yes.
collaboration. That's where we go. And also sometimes women get also, when women earn, I have seen, so I do programs for men. So they say, my wife earned that. So I feel when some of the decisions she never asked me, when I ask why you did, it's my money. So then we have to understand, if you are in a marriage, you must be that, you must speak to, you must negotiate. It's a joke that everyone says, his money is our money, my money is my money. But in real life, both are together. But ensure that both understand and value and respect. So that is what I think our society need.
And also just talking about our female migrant work, because I think recently our migration statistics went really high, and we had a lot of women moving out of the country for domestic work mostly. And yet they face like serious exploitation. And do you think does the Sri Lanka's economy truly value women's labor, or does it exploit their vulnerabilities?
I think what I see, I was in Philippines and I'm looking at it how they look at their migrant women. So when the migrant women returns to their country, they like our politicians come on the red carpet VIP. Those women come there in VIP, right? What I hate in Sri Lanka is when you go to the airport, they are the one who's discriminated mostly, where they go to bring money to us, we go to spend money there. So there is, what I said is Sri Lanka always get everything wrongly. I think first thing is give them that respect. Maybe some of them, many of them go for wrong reasons. Some of them they want to go because the domestic violence. They want that freedom, and they have been. Sri Lanka doesn't have the system to protect a married woman because marital rape is not, it's okay, right? So that is there. And also they, after you get married, if you go to a police or if you go and complain, then you can't live that life again. So domestic violence, many of them go because of domestic violence. Second, because a lot of teenage pregnancy that no one speaks, the teenage pregnancy, and when they both come out, they don't want to get married, they may have their own lives. Then uh, she's young, she has her desires, she doesn't have, so she goes away finding, trying to find her way. Then there's a lot of debts of the husband's family to pay that. So a lot of reasons are there. But I would say, if you really, if a we have to come up with a framework, because Philippines is a country where they actually work towards their migrant women. But we are a small country. Why can't we protect our women? They can go, they can earn. Those days when women go abroad, they come and they lived a very happy and a sustainable life. Now they come with so much of packages, so much of hurt. I think the system, we are selling our women. We are selling our women without dignity. I think the diplomat service has to change. Diplomat service has to take responsibility, and also the foreign ministry, foreign labor departments, they also have to take responsibility. And we women also has to be accountable. If we are going out of the country, if we want to work, ensure that you know your rights. Wherever you go, you know your culture, that country culture, and you should know. And a lot of women look for happiness and freedom outside the country. And I see a lot of 10 men get into a van and come and drop a woman in the airport, right? And I'm looking at it and thinking, what a country. So sad. 10 men come, they have money to hire a van and bring that woman and leave at the airport. But that men won't allow that woman to come to Colombo and work. So this is the reality. I would say a lot of things has to be changed.
And you sharing about your experience in the Philippines as well. So, Given your leadership in these international networks, how do you see Sri Lanka's policies for migrant workers would be compared to other countries? Like, what could we bring in change to make it better for them? In one way, maybe upskilling them and capacitating them to not only just go as domestic workers, but maybe something more. And as you said, something, understanding the culture of the country they're moving on to, their rights. Because some women migrate without knowing anything, but just knowing that they have a job on the other side of the world, basically, and that is all that they know of, and that they are going there to earn money and come back. So, what could in Sri Lanka, what could we do different in comparison to other countries, even with policies or even with the multiple organizations taking women out? Like, what do you think we could do different?
Redo the policies and agreements with these recruitment
Mm-hmm.
agencies. I think recruitment agencies, because I think everyone, all the recruitment, including the policymakers, are getting benefited.
Mm-hmm.
And that has to change.
Yes.
And also, I think why we are a nation where from South Asia's most, or I think more than 90% women are educated.
Mm-hmm.
And we are sending women to uneducated countries. So that because why? Because our policies are so weak. And I think the first thing is stop getting benefits from women. Now I know that I don't know whether it's still happening. I know 3 years ago, if you send your wife or if you bring a woman, you get a three-wheeler,
Oh, wow.
right? And then a lot of things were happening. Stop those things, right? And also I'm really saying that the policies and agreements with the recruitment company should change.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever are signing up with, who has the license, they have to recheck on license, ensure they have the policies, ensure that they do not have anything related, and the clients are being visible, the clients list is registered in the foreign ministry, all those stuff. Because they say you're going for this house or this, but they are not going. And we can have lot of skilled employees, not for domestic work. There are a lot of caregivers, there are a lot
Mm-hmm.
of nursery teachers, there are a lot of skilled. We are educated, we have educated women. More many of the women has studied up to grade 10 O levels. So why can't we? And we can go on this thing. And if you're signing up for 2 years, ensure you're signing up with dignity.
Mm-hmm.
So that before you change the foreign policies or international, we have to change the domestic policies with these agencies. Call up all the license, check on these license, check up who are their clients. Because even a company has a supply chain, right? And their suppliers are being registered. You do a due diligence with suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't the country policymakers do that? We don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Then we are talking about our motherland. We are using the word motherland after selling our mothers. Do you think that we are a blessed country if we are selling our women? We are not. It's time for the policymakers to rethink, are we ready to send the women with dignity? Not just other things, with dignity.
Great. That was very thought provoking. I think our viewers would also know. I just want to ask the question a lot of things because we hear a lot of things in the news, but do we take a moment to question it and just look back into what is the policy existing and what needs to change? So, thank you for that. I think that would just provoke a lot of thoughts with all of us. So now we'll just move towards a women entrepreneurship and the challenges we have in entrepreneurship, and also financial inclusion. Because financial literacy amongst women entrepreneurs are relatively low, and this disparity continues to effectively manage their finances. How do they manage their finances, access capital, and make informed economic decisions, which at the end of the day really hinders their entrepreneurship skills as well. So, with Sri Lanka's literacy rate being very low, despite an overall literacy rate of 93.3%, what steps do you think that could be taken to improve financial education among women? Particularly, I would ask also urban context, but as well as in the rural areas.
So I think many of these finance literacies whether SMEs is whether they have accounts or whether they have audited accounts. But I would say finance literacy normally with women are good. And the loans payback, women loan paybacks are uh, triple better than the men. That's why women focused loans are more given on
Mm-hmm.
SMEs. The issue is women do not use it in a formal method, right? They do not do the budgeting, they do not write the accounts, they do not have auditors. That is where it's a formal literacy is not there on the
Mm-hmm.
finance. That is where I think the issue is, because what we have must understand. So when I do entrepreneurship, when I do pricing and accountancy, this means we don't have time to write all this. We have, because women are 24 hours working, right? They have to be the mother, they have to be the wife, they have to be the daughter, they have to be the grandmother, as well as they have to be the caregivers for their parents, elderly parents, not only her parents, if she's married, to the in-laws also. So in all that, we want her to be that corporate, the world required management profession also, which in my thinking is not fair.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say the finance literacies, they what I see is have not come up with a system that women entrepreneurs can easily access and put their finance, so they don't have to work.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually, what I say is, look at the young girls in your area and see who's good in, who's doing commerce. Ask them to, once a month, come and check your accounts, because when you sell or when you get, just write it down in a book, that's enough. But get those girls to do your checking, because you have to have a support system for them to do that finance part. You can't ask those women to do it, because they are not full-time entrepreneurs. They are no, they are not full-time mothers or the wives. They are all over the place. That is where I think the issue is. But again, I would say it's not only women on the finance literacy. Sri Lanka has got our DNA wrong. We have been taught from the childhood, say, spend and save. The correct thing is save and spend. When we get the salary, we spend and see what is saved, and we
Same.
are trying to save it. It should be saved and spent. And also it should be 60-20-20. 60 is what is really important, 20 is for your this thing, 20 is we don't pocket it out that way. And even the savings accounts or anything, no one, because Sri Lankan banks are not development banks, they are just lending organizations. They should be finance educated, they should educate people on those things. So, for me, finance literacy is not about having a bookkeeping. I think finance literacy is knowing the system and ensuring that system is helpful for women to get the finance literacy.
So, just also really looking at the digital tools and platforms we have available, how do you think we could maybe make it more accessible and user friendly to the women in Sri Lanka? Because till this, some women do not know how to use the digital banking systems, for example. There are still a lot of people needing to learn. So, how do you think we can improve these digital platforms, for instance, with
I
financial?
read an article that I was shocked to read, because a lot of people say women are not digital, but there was an article, I can't remember where I saw. They say more women are the highest population pay online
Oh, wow.
rather than men, right? Because they don't have time, so they pay all the
Pay
bills
online.
online
Yeah.
using the phone
Mm-hmm.
rather than going to the bank or physically. So that's where I have, because I can't remember the article, I read it and I was asking this question, are we just using the words or we do actually
Do
what's
not.
happening? What I see is women, not women, women know digital, but there's two different. Knowing social media, knowing internet, knowing finance, banking are three different
Yes.
aspects. And also, if you look at, just look at the digital banking or credit cards, mainly for corporate people, salary people,
Mm-hmm.
and only for high class people, where in other countries, it's something being accessed to everyone. If you do not pay, then you get it to the blacklist, and no one get it. But this is like, oh, credit cards and all digital cards are for high level people. And then we are trying to have a equal society. I always say we have an issue, not issue with informal sector or uneducated people. We have an issue with the educated people who does not want to be accessible everyone. So the time I see the glass ceiling is with not just in a way, I think with a lot of people who thinks that these things should be only for us. That has to be this thing, and I think more women should come into the digital this thing. It's not something scary or anything. They should, and we have to ensure that digitalization has social media is just part of it. A lot of women are in social media. They prefer to sell on Instagram and Facebook rather than going to a website, right? So that we are trying to bring them to that, but what they say is, you it's easy for us, we get business. So end of the day what they ask is, if we get the business, why you want us to go so that also true, why we want to complicate them if they get a sale. But then eventually I think they will learn that social media will bring you the local business, but if you want to get into the international business, then you have to step in. So that is step by step which we have to have them.
Given your experience with like the other countries, what would you say was very successful towards women financial literacy that has worked in other countries, and maybe it could be applied to Sri Lanka? Maybe it's another Asian country or any other country where you've seen
Yeah,
a
I think
success.
in you have to take example of India,
Mm-hmm.
where you have more, you have different type of education is not that acceptable, but I think accepted for women. Yet, if you go to a woman today, they are all digital, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you for maps, I saw a woman, not from a rural woman, she would speak about app, she would talk about app, and she's old, she doesn't mind. So I think it's just that, Sri Lanka always rejects things. So when it comes, oh, it's not good,
Mm-hmm.
it's not scary, women are not safe. So we actually, that's where I think we had to embrace, whether it's fail or success, but we have to positively embrace. So I think India is one of the key things. And if you want to look at island, I would say Maldives.
Mm-hmm.
Maldives is cashless, and everyone use mobile and digital and everything. So every time I go there, I Maldives, for them, it's Sri Lanka, they come their second home. And I was like thinking, this how they are developed. They came for education, they came for health, everything. But they're far beyond us because they have just embraced everything which came. We are, we have a lot of perceptions and myths.
Mm-hmm.
That is where the issue is. And we love this negative news. We want to see someone failing because that person used the phone. We want to see someone fail because that person had a social media account. Then we generalize and say, oh, that media is not for a woman. That is the issue we have.
Okay, wow. So moving more towards, like, we spoke a lot about the informal sector, and you mentioned something about care workers, but we're just going to look into the unpaid care work and social protection which we could put forward. So unpaid care work disproportionately falls on women, limiting the economic independence because without adequate childcare, elder care, something you've mentioned previously, and even parental leave policies, women struggle to balance work and family requirements. So, in your case, what would you say? Like, because as women, we still get the brunt of unpaid care work and impacting our careers and the economic independence we have. So, in your view, should Sri Lanka introduce a care economy wage for women providing unpaid domestic work?
We have to understand Sri Lanka will already facing aging population, right? And the saddest point is we know it, but we are still silent. Other one is insurance schemes or anything is for the future, not for the present. And lot of caregiving programs are you looking for caregiving to go out of the country to care for the people who are not here? So when I actually wanted to introduce something caregiving, you have an elderly parent. While you're watching it, earn some money, get another elderly parent. Everyone was like, what are you trying to do? Are you going to put a price for looking after the parents? No, because she she has to, that woman who's looking after her elderly parents, it's not easy because it's not the childhood,
Yeah.
it's a very stubborn childhood, right? It's not a child being because I have a mother of 84, and I know sometimes because they have lived their life, they want the way it is.
Mhm.
So while she's looking after a mother and father, she can open a daycare for another mother and father who has working children. You drop your, so there you get a payment. So
Mhm.
she gets something satisfactory because our insurance schemes or anything, our pension schemes are not, it will take years to get updated, then everything will be gone.
Mhm.
Because we have to understand the youth who's going to come, they will suffer a lot on this burden. So we have to ensure that we start now. But are we starting as a policymaker, as a government, or as companies? Companies are putting out, companies are complaining about the youth attitudes which are coming. And then there are retirement people. Are the companies preparing the retirement? Are they ensuring that people who are going to retire, how they are going to live their lives and how they are going to put the gap with the youth on that?
Mhm.
So there's a lot of talk we should be doing on that, which is being ignored. So I think the caregiving is not the future, it's present, but we have not come up with a solution. The best solution is not doing diplomas and degrees and sending them to Europe. Ensure you make that Europe. You can bring, we have the blessed climate. You can have international caregiving organizations in Sri Lanka. You can bring parents here who can learn. We have the best medical system. We have the nurses. Why we are not looking at as a business point of view? The thing is, for us, we wait for everything and we look for what will others, because we are a nation to look for, live for others, not for ourselves. We value others' opinion than our own happiness. That's the issue.
I think very interesting point on the aging population. And I think it is a critical issue today, but I think, as you said, it's overlooked and not focused on. And I think care work could be paid, and as you said, build a business out of it and make it an environment or an atmosphere where there are more businesses coming up in this area. So, also just looking at childcare, for instance. So, it affects women's careers. I think we all know that it's a well-known thing. Do you think large companies be required to offer in-house childcare and flexible work policies to retain female employees?
I think it's already there. What I look at is, okay, childcare, because we in nowadays we have our parents, grandparents with us.
Mm-hmm.
Now we don't have, and also a lot of new generation parents want perfect children. I don't know how you can make a perfect child.
Child.
And also I think childcare system not only develop the child, develop the parents also, and it will help the corporates. Whether it's in-house or not, it should look at as a business concept, not just as a responsibility of companies. And also the parents also should understand. I saw in UK and other countries, they have, for doctors, they have night daycares. So the female doctors can have the night shift. They can leave the baby in the
Mm-hmm.
night daycares. Right now, we are struggling to have daycares for daytime,
Yes.
right? And also, daycares should be more for children to enjoy. Not, it should not be another educational institute. This is what has happened in Sri Lanka. Everything is coming onto the book level. Children should be given a time to be a child. And also the parents also do not, should not look at, whether my child had a fall, or yes, they, you should, but then let the child be that child, because that's a growing part. And I think childcare system can help the child to grow in a society. But are the parents are ready to put the child in the daycare? Are the parents feels, because we don't have qualified daycare helpers, and also we do not have right legal system or
Mm-hmm.
policies for daycares. So I think it's high time we look at policies and train daycare officers, professionals. That's a good entrepreneurship and good profession. But I told you, the Sri Lanka is very laid back. We wait for someone to invite. Especially women always wait for someone to offer our a seat. Otherwise, we don't go and grab the stool which is there. We want a full seat. I always say, if there's no chair, grab the stool and sit.
Okay, great. So, also looking at maternity and paternity and all of that, what do you think is stopping Sri Lanka from implementing paternity leave policies to redistribute the caregiving responsibilities? Because do you think it's a cultural issue or a corporate reluctance, or is it just a policy failure to really understand that I think we need to have paternity leave as well to share the load of work we have, especially for a newborn, because I think any mother out there could share like a newborn is a lot of work. So, how do you think we could change this? And what do you
Our
think is the cause of it?
Yeah,
Sorry.
our culture is all about parenting, is all about motherhood. We have excluded the father, right? But it's changing. But then again, while we are thinking about the mother, we have to think about the father also. If a father who took a paternity leave as a man, eh, you have to look at, because some men has come and said, Sulochana, they have offered me, and everyone is laughing at us. So there is a pressure on men also in Sri Lanka. Lot of if you are a house husband, you think that the wife can come and say, "Oh, I'm a proud wife. I'm working and my salary is enough. My husband is taking care of the children." You think how the people are gossiping. Oh, this man is living with the salary of the wife. Oh, this man is no one. And the mothers and the relations, forget about neighbors. First, the people who will do is your relations. So we have to understand there's a pressure on men also. Be fair on them. And paternity leave should be implemented not as a responsibility but also for him to enjoy becoming a father. Yes, mother change physically, but emotionally the man changes. When the moment he grab that baby, he changes. Why we don't think that men has emotions? We want the men to be strong. Don't cry, you're a boy. Don't be a crybaby, you're like a girl. These are I told you that there's unawareness of these, who is a man and who's a woman. We are looking at, we are just using buzzwords and putting into boxes. The first thing is stop putting people into boxes. Men and women has same things, but they are expressing in a different way. So paternity leave should be given not just because he's a man, because he's changed as emotionally becoming a father. And that emotion can help the mother and father to come closer and the child to live with love.
I think this conversation of roles and whatnot, I think it starts with us. It starts with us in terms of in our homes, in our workplace, and how do we change the narrative is where it is at. And not let it be as buzzwords, but be as phrases that change
Yes.
and not just as a way of gossip or whatnot. So we'll just finally move towards a women's economic potential and how what policy reforms we could bring forward to because there are gender focused policies, but implementation falls short. And real economic change for women requires strong policy enforcement and budget allocations and also institutional commitment. So, if you could rewrite one policy in the Sri Lanka's 2025 budget to improve women's economic opportunities, what would it be?
I would say after school, before going to university, every girl should work for 1 year and earn their money before they go to a college or a university.
Okay. Just for them to get the experience.
To
In
get
what
the
ways?
experience, to be independent and know the value of money.
And also just moving towards, because Sri Lanka has seen more discussion with the gender parity. And as a leader, what do you think is the missing link between policy, creation and actual implementation? Because I think we all fall short with the implementation of such policies. So what do you think is the missing gap between creation of a policy and the implementation of a policy?
Creation of policy has been for awards. Implementation is they do not want to implement because the policy is there, and also the implementation why it has failed is people who wanted the policy is the top management, but they do not want to practice. Walk the talk is not there.
Mm-hmm.
They have the policy. They love to boast about it. Oh, our company has 2 women in the board. Our company has this. Our company policy is on harassment. We ensure women get in. But when it comes to walk the talk, it's not there. So I think the commitment of the top management has failed.
And just also looking ahead, because I know in our conversation we had before this conversation, podcast conversation started, you said you don't really like the word gender equality.
Yes.
But I am going to ask you a question in related to that. Do you believe Sri Lanka will achieve economic gender equality in the next decade? Or will women continue to fight the same battles for years to come?
I don't think women are fighting at all compared to other
Okay.
countries. I think more than equality, we have to fight for equity.
Mm-hmm.
Equality does not go with Sri Lankan system. Equity
Mm-hmm.
has to be there. Because why I say it, economical equity is if you come from a Colombo school, you're sure to get a job. If you still come from Colombo, but not a Colombo school, but a name where you get in more on media with criminal, you will not get it even to a job interview, right? So that is where the equity comes.
Mm-hmm.
And still, with international school, with good schools, you see that people who get into the top are people who has that background about all these things. Just being educated, you will not get into the top. So that is why equity matters beyond equality.
So how do you think we could maybe break those barriers towards gender
I think
equity?
first thing is I would say the ZSCO has brought Sri Lanka into a issue
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of women are in the university in wrong departments. I can see people who has done agriculture degrees doing counseling, right? So there is a issue because they want to be employed in a state employment. What I want women to also look at is, and I want now, okay, it's okay to do a singular degree, but where you are going to go with the singular
Degree is
degree,
important.
right? So we have to look at where women, when a woman, a young girl get elected to the university, and we look at the area where she's coming, and then you have to help her to choose that
Mm-hmm.
path. We don't see that is happening. That's where I think the equity comes. Just because you get into a university, it does not promise you a future. It will give you a degree. But where's the future after the degree? And also a lot of entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs has this patent. But if you can't make that patent to an employment, to a moneymaker, or to an entrepreneurship, holding a patent does not what it's bring to you. So those are the things we have to look at. I think for me, economical uh, empowerment or equity is more about knowing where you want to head.
Mm-hmm.
I think Colombo and suburb Colombos knows what the world is, and they see and I think outside rural you don't see a lot of inspire. So when I try to do programs, so difficult to take a lot of inspirational people to the oh it's 6 hours, oh it's 7 hours, but they will love to get into a plane and run to another country and give a speak. And I wonder why. And sometimes they, oh, single and the oh, Tamil well in the. If you can't speak in your mother tongue, at least try it. It's okay to fail. We want to be, I must say, we want to be very perfect with foreign language, but not with our languages. So this thing is, we can change this and we can make a equity if we openly, if we genuinely want equity. Not for us, our time may pass, but remember what we give, it comes for our next generation, our
Generation.
children.
Yes.
Maybe not our children, maybe our grandchildren. So when you are making a dish, when you are harvesting something, remember it has to be positive.
I think I like the point you mentioned about how I think we need to be able and be encouraged to go to the grassroots level. Go to the grassroots level and share stories, because I think a lot of women have so many skills, so many talents in the rural sector, but they are not being empowered. And they don't even know the talents and skills that are within them, and it just needs to be
There are
sparked.
amazing women out there.
Yes.
It's just that, they look for people, and I think for me, my inspiration is them. When I look at their struggles and when I look at their, I think if they were born in where a lot of people are, I would say we cannot even touch them because that's the talent they have. But unfortunately, we do not. We love to talk about them, but we do not want to get connected.
Yes, and sow the seeds in the right places for the good harvest. And another thing you liked is it's not you're not harvesting for the next generation, but even the generations to come. You would
Yeah.
never know, and that's why it's so important to sow the seeds, despite any barrier.
It is a lot of people think doing entrepreneurship or doing for rural is charity, which I don't like it.
Okay.
It's a responsibility,
Yes,
not
it's a
charity.
responsibility. Okay. Okay, just to close off question for today's conversation is, if there was one immediate change that Sri Lanka could implement in 2025 to drastically improve women's economic participation, what would it be?
Open a uh, entrepreneurship market,
Wow.
right? Where they don't have to go through all the ministries. Ministries comes. That's where they say 1 day service for identity. Do the same way. You want to export? Here are the certificates we are issuing you. Do that. Help them. We don't do that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sulochana, for joining us here at Advocata Studio for an insightful and a very thought provoking conversation on the women's labor force participation. So much more. And I think you didn't touch only on women, but men as well. And you just looked at all. So thank you for that conversation. And also thank you to our viewers for tuning in for today's video. And please, if in your workplace, wherever you are, celebrate another woman. This is in celebration of International Women's Day. Celebrate one another, and also do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And look forward to the other videos that will be coming up on our other social media platforms on Advocata Plus and Advocata Kural. Thank you for joining us, and wishing you all a very blessed and powerful International Women's Day.